Hello YouTube, I'm new CENTER Maine meteorologist Jason Nappi, tracking the tropics and the latest. We're going to have at least a tropical storm, if not a hurricane, in the next 24 to 36 hours or so. Let's talk about the tropical satellite here. All of this convection happening. You see that thunderstorms are firing up southeast of Jacksonville to the east of Jacksonville. That's system number one. System number two is beginning to have big-time thunderstorms out off the coast of Africa, and you see that running into some wind shear, so it's taking apart the thunderstorms for this system. This one doesn't have a name yet. The other one is going to have a name. So let's talk about this one just briefly here. This is what people are thinking about long-term. This one here has got a good outflow, but there's wind shear tearing it apart, so just not looking very healthy. I expect that to develop in the Caribbean in the next few minutes. Now, here we go. We'll talk about the social media briefly, then I'll get into the meat of the storms that I expect to impact the East Coast here, so you can follow along. Let's talk about it now. Tropical satellite here off the coast of the southeast. A lot of thunderstorm activity. I'll zoom in so you can see it even closer. This is not a system as of this recording here on your Thursday, but I expect it, and the Hurricane Center expect it to get a name, and that's going to be Ophelia, and that will be at least a tropical storm. A lot of thunderstorm activity to the east side. It doesn't have a central kind of core yet, but you can see a little spin. There are some characteristics in this system. It's also sitting over very warm water. No hurricane hunters that I could tell that are around this area of low pressure. It's broad right now, but you see the clouds here in the satellite picture. There's a lot in the way of action with this. So the Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida is saying this will become at least a tropical storm. Warnings have been issued, more are likely to follow, and a North Carolina landfall expected Saturday morning. Because this storm is going to get big and large, I expect there to be impacts well ahead of Saturday morning. Here are the watches and warnings. Watches up for South Carolina, warnings up north of that, heading up into the Chesapeake, south here of the Delmarva. You see Norfolk, Plymouth, Cedar Island, back to Wilmington. The red, warnings for tropical storms. I could see them bumping up to a hurricane watch as the storm starts to get better organized. But right now, the latest here, the wind sustained at 35, gust to 45. So it's not a tropical storm yet, but the movement is to the north at 9, pressure way up over 1,000 millibars. That's going to come down just a bit. As you see here, the latest track is going to put it south of Raleigh and North Carolina as we get into Friday morning. But by Friday, I expect impacts to extend away. Regardless, the landfall with this storm, which is not going to be a huge deal because it's not going to be a powerful hurricane, still there will landfall and surge in the northeast quadrant of the storm right here, Outer Banks of North Carolina Saturday morning, and then up here at Delmarva Sunday morning up to Cape May, New Jersey, and then pushing out east. Now I'm going to explain why this one is going to go south of New England and not, like Lee, head up into the Maritimes. Here's what I know so far on Ophelia. It's going to be over warm waters, and that means at least a strong tropical storm or a hurricane. It's peak hurricane season, so this is expected. What I don't know at this very moment is the exact track, but right now trending closer to the coast, and how far north does it get before high pressure is going to squash it to the south. So we'll look here at the model tracks from the European model, putting it basically dead set on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. A wobble I could see east or west here of 20 or 25 miles, but basically towards the Outer Banks and heading up north of that is where it's expected. Also, what I know here, got warm water. Now, these tropical systems, this time of the year, I'll say it in my last video, say it in this one, their job is to take that latent heat from the equators to the equator to the poles, 2 poles, 1 equator, and to take that here north, in our case, the northern hemisphere, from this warm water. They need 80 plus to sustain their energy, like you need to have lunch. Hopefully you're having pizza right now or some ice cream. And you need to get to this Gulf Stream. Now, off the coast of the Carolinas and Cape May, New Jersey, here's the Gulf Stream water, still relatively warm. Once this system gets north of that, forget it. It's in the 60s. It gets to the Gulf of Maine, probably won't even make it that far, and it's cut off from its energy source. So we'll talk about the steering currents with this system. High pressure north, like a big blocking offensive lineman of your favorite football team. Hopefully it's the Patriots. And then tropical storm to the south here. So what's going to happen is this high is going to slide east. Another high is going to want to come in behind that. So here's what tropical systems want to do. they want to take the path of least resistance, right to the poles. They want to take that latent heat up to the North Pole, in this case, the Northern Hemisphere. So what happens here is a little piece of energy, a trough, kind of spins off of this out ahead, and that could drag Ophelia a little bit east. But because of this blocking high coming in to reinforce the situation up north, in the North Atlantic especially, and in Canada, I think this one stays south of New England. But we're going to see some waves out of this. And depending on how strong it gets, I could definitely see 10 or 15 footers moving up off the coast or near shore of New Jersey and the Delmarva. Watch out in the Chesapeake, too, as you get that water kind of pushed up here in Delmarva. But not expecting this to be a big-time wave maker, nothing like what we saw from Lee just really a few days ago. So the tropics tracker, here's the rain look at things. This is really one of the biggest stories. On the north side of the storm Friday morning, and I said Friday you're going to start to see impacts, Carolina coast. So if you're watching from North Carolina or South Carolina right now, thank you. And let's talk about what's happening with this storm. You see the pressure is going to get a little bit tighter, a little bit lower, the circulation a little bit better as it's off the coast of North Carolina Saturday morning. Here's where landfall could happen, somewhere around, could be, off the coast of, obviously, the East Coast. It could be North Carolina. It looks right now like the Outer Banks, but could be just south of that, maybe towards Wilmington, and then moves up here around the Chesapeake. And once it interacts with land, most likely going to lose tropical characteristics pretty quickly because this doesn't have a lot of support. And then the rain here, that early area of that trough, that little spin up energy, sneaks off the coast of New England. So in New England this weekend, if you're thinking about taking a look at some of the leaf situation, obviously we got fall coming up. Saturday is the first day of fall. Then I could see some showers along the coast. But then this would be the remnants of Ophelia, and it's a soaker. I mean, southern New England especially, not so much northern New England, but southern New England and the mid-Atlantic, New York City, getting hammered by rain into Sunday and also early on Saturday too from this system. So a washout looking very likely there. Now, as far as the wind field, and excuse me, I've got a little typo there, not Nigel, but it is Ophelia. So in the interest of time, so I don't have to re-record this, we'll take that for what it is. But you can see a large wind field, not exactly like what happened with Lee. It came down from a 3, 4, and a 5, but this one is going to have a large wind field, and the wind's coming in from the east here for New Jersey. This is not going to be a Sandy, nothing like that, nothing that powerful, but you're definitely going to have a little surge going on here with the wind coming in from the east. And if it does get to hurricane status, you're certainly going to have more surge happening and a lot of that splash over with that. Watch out, Long Island Sound here as we talk about Sunday morning for some of that surge happening. So here's what you need to know on Ophelia. Tropical storm, or I would put this at best, Cat 1 hurricane as far as around that core once it develops briefly. Large wind field I just showed you and a coastal surge situation, Delmarva, Chesapeake, up to the Jersey Shore, Long Island Sound, soaking rains, Carolinas, all the way up north into southern New England. I think northern New England escapes the bulk of the rain from this system because of that big high coming in behind the high that's going to steer this one out to sea. Now, here's the tropical satellite on that next system. This is likely, if we don't have an in-between kind of name storm, going to be Philippe, and here is the look at it right now. It doesn't have a name, doesn't even have an invest on it, which is basically like an investigation from the Hurricane Center. It doesn't have that yet. What it has is a big-time thunderstorms that haven't completely gone away, but you see some flare-ups here in the last kind of frames, but it's definitely hitting wind shear, and that's definitely going to knock it down. However, this storm's got life because once it endures all this wind shear out ahead of it, it's going to basically surge in the Caribbean. And I expect it to get up to at least hurricane status, could get to a major as it gets close to the Caribbean. And this is just one little look at things. And here I got the name right there, right? So Philippe, okay. So here's a look at the wind field. This is just one computer model. This is as we get into this weekend and then next week. So this is not going to be set in stone. This is really pushing the computer algorithm way out of its comfort zone. But here we go. By Thursday of next week, you see this system potentially trying to recurve towards Bermuda, which is that dot, and then head out to sea. But still too soon to say. This one could get close to the islands. It could certainly get close to the southeast coast, but it's much too soon to say. So follow along on the socials if you like. If not, you can leave a comment either way. Happy pizza eating, ice cream, whatever your beverage is. And we'll talk to you next time in the Tropics Update as we get to the weekend.